BoxingVoice.com. We are here with CEO of K2 Promotions, Tom Loeffler. Tom, initially Curtis Stevens turned down the offer. Did you think this fight would come to fruition?
You know, Curtis called out Gennady before his last fight, and it was very unusual for a fighter to go towards Gennady. We've always had problems with getting fighters in the ring to fight him, and that's what I thought was unique about it. Curtis never turned down the fight. We just continued our negotiations. HBO stepped up. They really liked the fight. There's a lot of buzz on this fight, and at the end of the day, we were able to get the deal done. And it's the best-selling pre-sale that the Garden has had for a boxing event at the theater, and so we're really excited about the prospects of it. How
important is it for Gennady to impress at the theater, being that he could be, the next New York star, being that Cotto isn't on his last leg, Madison Square Garden doesn't have that fighter to sell it out every time here?
Well, we've made a commitment to the Garden where, Gennady realizes that New York's the media capital of the world. If he wants his career to take off the way that we think it can, he's really the breakout star in 2013. And there's no better stage to fight on than at Madison Square Garden. And so that's why we're excited about it. We're excited about him coming back to New York. We're excited about being, back at the Garden, their renovation. This will be the first fight that they've had at the Garden since their renovation and or transformation. And having Curtis Stevens bring the momentum that he's bringing into the fight, and both guys having the big knockout power, there's a lot of buzz, and a lot of people realize that this is going to be an exciting fight for as long as it lasts.
Now, obviously, November was the date you guys had. There was rumors that you guys might take a fight in Monaco in December. Is that still true?
Now, that fight got pushed back, so it would be, everyone's focused on November 2nd. There's no way you can overlook Curtis Stevens. It's my job as a promoter to plan ahead, but Gennady and Abel, they're focused on Curtis and November 2nd, and we look for a great performance.
Now, being that the pool of guys like a Gil, a Barker, even Sergio Martinez may not want to step in the ring with Gennady. Come next year, I know HBO wants to have him back on. If you don't get any of those three guys, what's the outlook for Gennady in the middleweight division?
Well, HBO has also made a commitment to Gennady, and they realize that it's a high-risk fight for any opponent getting in the ring with them. So it's not the situation anymore where it's a high-risk, low-reward. HBO's made the commitment financially where they're going to support him and pay for the right opponents. And that's what happened when Matthew Macklin fought, and he took the fight. He stepped up, and he was one of the top middleweights at the time when they fought. And that's what HBO's committed to. And that's why we think there'll be some great fights coming down the road for the middleweight division.
Now, is there frustration when those guys don't take those fights? I know Martin Murray was off the fight. He turned it down. Obviously, Gale and Barker, seemingly they don't want no PCU. They want to fight Felix Sturm and then fight whoever after. How does it feel to be a promoter of a guy that has this much possibility to be a star, yet no one wants to fight you?
Well, the good news is that Gennady's never turned down a fight. Gennady or Abel or Gennady's manager they've never turned down a fight. And so it's easy for me to negotiate with HBO because we've never turned down any opponent that they've proposed. There is a long list of fighters that have turned down Gennady for one reason or the other. You've named a few. Daniel Gil gave up the title when he was supposed to fight Gennady. Felix Sturm, kind of avoided the fight for a long time there for a while. But we think that with Gennady's rise in prominence and visibility, and with the budget increasing with every fight from HBO, I think that you'll see some big fights coming together for next year, and that's what we're excited about.
Now, a guy that said he wants to fight Golovkin this past week or last week was Julio Cesar Chavez, but just doesn't seem like Julio Cesar Chavez is going to make the middleweight limit anymore. How real do you think those words are, and if that fight was to happen, would it have to happen at 68?
It doesn't matter. I've talked to Gennady and I've talked to Abel about it. So if it's clearly that Chavez Jr. is a star in boxing, and he's very marketable. He's followed in the footsteps of his father. Then it's a legendary name, legendary family, and so we've made it clear that if Chavez wanted the fight, is willing to get in the ring, the weight wouldn't matter. That wouldn't be any discussion at all. If he wanted to fight at 168, if he wanted to fight at 170. Me personally, I don't think you will see Chavez at 160 anymore. But that's not a problem. Gennady would fight at 168 or higher if a fight like that came to fruition.
And final question: if you don't get the fights at 60, is it your job to move him up to 68 or maybe down to 54 with the likes of Andre Ward? I know you don't like hearing that name, neither do I, but at 54, there are still guys there. And being that at 60, Peter Quillen is another champion, but because he fights on Showtime, that fight might not happen.
You know, I've said it before that the priority is him capitalizing at the best weight at middleweight division. If there's a compelling fight at 168, a compelling fight at 154, they've made it clear, Gennady's made it clear that he could fight at either weight, even at 175. I told HBO, even at 175, if there's a compelling fight, that he would move up to 175. But it has to be an extraordinary fight for that to happen. There's no reason for, you know, who we consider the best middleweight out there to move out of his division and make a fight. And that's what we want to capitalize on and continue to build. And I think the middleweight division is really hot right now. And I think at some point, you know, I really think that, you know, the politics will get worked out at some point, and that we could see a big New York fight between Chavez, between Peter Quillen and Gennady.
Oh, so that's one last question, but I just have one more because you opened the door to one question I wanted to ask. You said 175. A lot of people were comparing Sergey Kovalev as the 175-pound version of Triple G. I mean, would that be a compelling fight down the road?
That's a great fight. It's not even down the road. I mean, Kovalev had a fantastic performance over Cleverly. He went to England, knocked out Cleverly in his backyard, and Kovalev is a fantastic fighter. He's another big power puncher. But I mean, that's a name that we've told HBO that we would accept. So it really, I think Gennady is the most versatile boxer that I've ever worked with. I mean, the Klitschko's have the gold standard at heavyweight. I mean, they've dominated the division for so long, and it's been, you know, my honor to be able to work with them for as long as I have. And, you know, two brothers winning the belts and dominating the division, it's unprecedented in history. Gennady has a lot more opportunities as far as big names to fight in his division here in the States, and that's why I think, you know, we'll continue to see his career rise as quickly as it has.
Well, there you have it, boxingvoice.com with Tom Loeffler.